Not on. Not on. Is it working? I think it's working. Working. Okay, that goes away. Straight to race 9, Sydney. Oh, Spider. Too much Discord of Discord. Moonee, still in Melbourne, freezing your backside off. Oh. All right. Sydney first or Cox Plate first? Do Sydney first. I'll try and have a look at a couple of those horses in the actually half-warm day here. That's not possible. I'll have a look at those couple of those Golden Eagle horses too. Derby looks interesting. So got a bit more handle on those races this week, so I'll spend a bit more time on those, but we'll get through Sydney quickly because Sydney's pretty boring. Join? What are you joining? No joining. I give you nothing. Probably should. Done. Reasonably fair track at Randwick. Rail was out 5. I do think it was hard to loop from wide, back and wide, but there were some crazy slow tempos. The thing was that not too many horses really made ground wide in the faster run races. So I do think it was difficult to come from back and wide. Yeah, really only the midway or the highway or the whatever the waves, one of the ways. There was Tanglewood Jimmy sort of come down the middle. Other than that, not much came out there. Saturday paid for my trip to Morocco. That's good. One way? Yes. Yes, one way. Yes, Spider. I love it. Spider's in rare form. But yeah, I think the track was pretty fair. It was sort of just, again, some weird and wonderful rides. 2-year-old to kick off.
Ready to go now on the Kirkham Plate. Comedy, the post-time favourite, and a clear favourite.
Comedy named after slow punter. So a couple of key things here. The time's not great. It's not horrific. Controlled tempo up front. They don't really get home that quick. And Arabella Star pulls up 3 out of 5 lane, which is pretty significant. So basically the second favourite hasn't gone around here, which is I think it was McEwan train, wasn't it? Horse from Melbourne. Arabella Star has basically not gone around 3 out of 5 lane. Not a bad win from Comedy because it sits with a big white face. Does sit wide for the majority and does knuckle down late. And pretty solid wins, got some upside. But I thought the race itself looked pretty plain.
Together with Gladstone Grande is firing up a bit in the early part. Then a line of 4 of the others doing the chasing. We've got Lapis Lazuli, who's pushing through on the rails from the Little General. And then came Comedy and Arabella Star. So this is a pretty keen...
So yeah, pretty compact, as you can see. They're not going overly quick. Also getting keen, sort of in behind there. McEwan gets caught in an awkward spot. The Waterhouse runners caught wide, no cover. So there's another horse that was disadvantaged in the race. Even though they're not going too fast, just sort of takes further merit from the race. The leader certainly had the right run, was probably the best ride in the race, and Skips Away looks the winner. And then kind of as it looked on the day, it didn't look like the winner really found and sort of accelerated. It's just the leader stopped late and the rest was sort of closing in. And the time sort of suggests. So it wasn't a bad win for sure because he was caught in that awkward spot, knuckled down. Good traits from 2-year-old to see this horse sort of really want to find the line, whereas the second horse had its chance and didn't. So the winner's got some upside. The rest, Tricky and Arabella Star, just a complete forgive because it was 3 out of 5 lane. No further comments there. Hippodrome. Is that where hippopotamus? 2-year-old race, gone. Gone. I don't think we're going to have to worry about that one too much. Treated as a barrier trial at best is what I would say for that. A lot. Bit of carnage here. A lot of carnage Average race, very average race. They go just above average to the 800, speed up to the 6, so there's plenty of solid pressure up front to the 600 metre mark. Comes right out of the race late. Winner bursts through. There's a lot of unlucky runners. I think French Ruler's unlucky. Bajani sat wide. Mogul Monarch sat wide. Los Padres run into all sorts of trouble. Monty Supreme ran into all sorts of trouble. Conrad ran into some trouble. Miss Hades was given a funny ride. Oakfield Triumph. A forgivable effort too, and I think Border Control set up outside the leader. So overall, the race very smelly for mine. You got banned. G'day, TD. May just open up a new account and have a look for yourself. Always plenty happening on Twitter at all times.
Blindfolds removed, the gates are back, and they're off and racing. And Miss Hades really.
Yeah, so Miss Hades is pretty funny. Change of tactics to be ridden more forward. Again, optical illusion. Sometimes these middle draws look like they jump a little bit better than what they do. But it's quite funny to see old Tommy sort of jam, then grabs hold when he knows he's in a bit of Barney. And where he ends up is the funny part. Like, he probably was in front. And look at him, like he doesn't just let the horse relax, he just physically drags the horse out of the race at that point. So rather than sit sort of 3 and 4 wide up closer, he ends up third last after using the horse up early. Quite funny, I thought. Pajanti sits wide. Mogul Monarch is in that sort of squeezy box there and gets squeezed up a little bit. Border Control outside leader works hard. Who else is working hard? So Pajanti's there. Who else is in this race? Princess Cruiser's out wide. Who's the one with the nose roll? It's Putt for Dough. So, yeah, at this point, Los Padres cops a squeeze. Conrad cops a squeeze. Oakfield Triumph gets in a weird spot. It just gets really ugly. French Ruler ends up having to come wide. Just looks box this race. Monty Supreme's been very unlucky two times in a row now. And Mad Darcy avoids all of that trouble and pokes its nose through late at a big price. Looks like it's won lotto, to be honest. I just don't think Pajanti's going much good. All the indicators for me, there's just not much quality in this race. Even French Ruler, it was unlucky first up, sort of forced up the inside. It's got upside, but yeah, it's probably the one with the most upside, to be honest, but I just, the whole race is smelly. Look at them, charge the Light Brigade, running up their asses. No merit in the back end of it. Be very wary of that sort of form going forward, really wanting to ask a lot of these runners when they're placed next time out. Then they're going to need to be well placed, midway runners, as they usually do, because midway form does not tend to travel. On Conrad, when you don't want to watch this again, do you want me to replay it? I can replay it one more time. Portelli copped some bad rides. Yeah, I think Portelli tends to cop some bad rides, and from my experience with the stable, he's very much just have a look and try and get the 1-1. But if you don't get the 1-1, make sure you go back and get cover. So he gives them 2 sets of instructions. So his riders are always fearful going out, if that makes sense. So and he loves changing jockeys. So if you go out and don't execute plan A to perfection, go back to plan B, and it doesn't work out, you're usually the one under the bus. So I find most trainers that operate that way tend to have less luck than others, because riders ride scared and go out with 36 different plans in their head, and usually they end up opting for the most cautious plan because they are scared of being sacked, and then nothing tends to happen. So yeah, it's not all stables, but some, like I have had first-hand experience there, and that's how he tends to operate. He loves to, give the riders 13 different sets of options, and then if something goes wrong, it's their fault. Miss Hades was still poor, I think, even though he gave her a bye. I would have liked to be able to show more speed, number one. Number two, finish off better because, you know, all these horses basically did and she didn't quite. So I'd be worried about her, but she's not hopeless. I just think she needs to, you know, draw perfectly in the right race to be really considering it too much. I don't. It wasn't a great ride. It was forgivable, but it wasn't flashing light ready to go next time out. Now does the El Castillo more territories? Not sure what that means. Effa? Race 3. So this is the highway, right? This is just as ugly. We'll get through it quickly. 2, fast tempo. Fast tempo to the 800, faster to the 600. Horrible last 600. And overall, the race has gone below average. So this is a huge red flag. Warning. Be very, very careful of me. Form race. I thought I was a genius at the 100-metre mark with Ghost Walker and Tanglewood Jimmy ripping down the outside at big prices, and Cable Express, who was it was okay, but it was thought it might be a run short coming to this, but still was, you know, it was $9 into 650. The second horse knocked me out of exotics, but sorry, yeah, I think the race is pretty poor. Again, there's a few excuses. I think Marinaro pulled up with an issue. Straight fire, didn't stretch out. Very steady horses, but it's highway form.
And we're ready to go. Straight fire's been well back.
I would normally be critical of the winner here, but what I'm wary of is that it was second up off a fast tempo at a mile and was off a really soft run first up. So I think this horse has got upside in its preparation. So I'd be hesitant next time, but I'd be still sort of neutral on the horse, if that makes sense, rather than being negative, because it should have physical upside. Pardon me. So yeah, it's back here and does get used up a bit. So that's the other positive. So it's sort of that's it bursting through. So 2 good things for this horse. 1, that it's been used up, and 2, that it's got upside in its prep. And the other horses that run the placings, like Ghost Hunter and Tanglewood Jimmy, are out the Ghost Walker and Tanglewood Jimmy are out the back, and I think this is the other one here, the Right Rein. Yeah.
And Ruff takes the lead from Cable Express early stages. Mazita in the white colours.
Absolutely murdered this horse, poor old Swift Charm. It's just been absolutely driven bad. It's whole my career. Mazita sits wide, no cover. Volcanic Love sits 4 and 5 wide, no cover from what I could tell.
On this very competitive race, Volcanic Love's out very wide from Miss Gant. Back in the field, Tanglewood Jimmy.
I won't spend much time on this race just because it is pretty poor.
Deeper out then, Cable Express under the pump with Hulu deep out, and Volcanic Love's been off the track all of the way.
This is Ghost Walker coming through the middle. This is Tanglewood Jimmy. This is Cable Express coming here. So not only is it sort of worked early, it's been given a pretty bad ride, this horse. Like, so hang on, we'll go back. So here it is here pulling. So nearly went to the front, and now it's pulling after missing the kick. And then sort of gets dragged back into an awkward spot. And then has to come around them all. So it's done plenty of work in the run. It is definitely the diamond in the rough, Cable Express, from a upside perspective. Like, it's probably had the hardest run in the race, all things considered. And has the courage to sort of fight them off here, even though it doesn't really look like it's going great. Ghost Walker definitely got there early enough, and Tanglewood Jimmy looked like he was going to drop on and probably peaked on his run too. So, yeah, he's definitely the diamond in the rough, and potentially, you know, everyone sees what we see to a certain degree, as in the quality of the race is not that strong. So they'll all be looking to be fairly against this race, and Cable Express maybe has that bit of upside. I definitely wasn't a disadvantage to be up and in. I don't think it was easy to make ground out wide, and that was probably the outlier, Tanglewood Jimmy, and that was because he had such a strong tempo advantage, and there was no merit in the last section at all. So even though it looked he was ripping home down the outside, Tanglewood Jimmy, he was still coming home the 45th fastest last 200 of the day. So yeah, he went okay for the sort of horse he is, but he had a lot in his favour. other than the part of the track. I do think that it was hard to make ground wide. Where was more territories in? Was it in on... I don't remember. Where was it in at? Oh, you mean Territory Express? Put the repost up this stream. You expressed disbelief in jocks having jobs with big stables, i.e. a good bloke. Hard work. Oh, Coach 3. Yeah, I don't. No, I don't. I think all jockeys have their place. So, yeah, I was talking about Jay Ford, and it's very well known that Jay Ford's an extremely good trialer, track worker, great feedback, hard worker, shows up all the time, extremely reliable, Mr. Reliable. And he deserves reward for that. How do you reward him? Yeah, I don't know, because is he the best jockey in big occasions? You'd stretch to say yes, right? He's a real tradesman, bread and butter jockey, but he's not going to make a lot of things happen. Probably the best way to put it. He's not going to find that extra length that you want. He'll do what you ask, but he'll probably do it with that extra bit of caution. Whereas, you know, your Shins and your J-Max and whatever, I'm sure they listen to instruction, but most of the time they're just going to go and do what they want, right? Yeah, it's just a hard decision to make. Loyalty as opposed to desire to win big races, giving yourself the best opportunity. It's tough. Sherry's different because I don't think he's even a solid jock. Like you said, Sherry to me personally, again, nothing personal against Tom Sherry. Personally, I think he's like a provincial jockey, and that's where he should be. But anyway, hopefully he doesn't go back to the provincials because that's where Molly Fitzgerald will be now. And I'm tipping Molly Fitzgerald will knock up riding winners for the Neesham stable now that she's joined that stable. Brian Crowley Stakes. Evenly run race, controlled to the leader, but not in slow tempo, then sort of picks it up and maintains it. So basically a solid tempo throughout, like an even tempo throughout, slightly above average time, slightly, just a rock solid race. Peter, I'll have a look at the Coolmore, 100%. Is he definitely going? Growing Empire? He's one horse I hadn't heard about after the Everest. And a rider will be very interesting for him because you would hope they've... McEwan just doesn't suit that horse, just the same as he doesn't suit Coleman. All right, Brian Crowley.
Now, and the light is on for the Brian Crowley Stakes. Stand by. And they're racing. Don't forget Jack was slow out.
So this horse has been a bit of a suck previously. He had trialled up quite well, but he sort of sucked everyone in by doing that as well previously. And he did look in very good order, was reasonably well backed, got a little bit soft late, but there was a lot of money for Smashing Time. And I think there might have been some money for High Octane as well. Don't forget Jack goes for a spell off the back of this. He just basically never tacks on out the back and pulls up with an issue, so he's gone for a break. Smashing Time never seemed to travel for mine, and maybe it was a big win first up, having to chase down that leader off a really poor ride. So maybe forgiving one run would be okay. I think in this case, maybe he was just a little bit flat off the back of that because this race is not too bad, and obviously was second up. The winner is first up, 1,200 metres, so a good effort. High Octane had its chance. Manu up the inside. Manos was, yeah, this is probably the horse that scares me. All this form, High Octane's been running well without winning. Manos found the right race first up and was well ridden, and it was a good win, but just looked a bit of a tradesman. And King of Rousseau's been a little bit in the weeds, but did have its chance here and is very fit. So it's hard to sort of line this form up when you're trying to work out where it's going to go from here. The small margins and doesn't really breed confidence either. But you would say that Manos sort of going to 1,400 looks ideal, should run well. And King of Rousseau maybe about the same distance. I don't know whether Amazing Eagle goes further, or you keep him to 1200 and he could improve off that, and high octane. Oh, COVID. Zara's booked for Growing Empire. Cool. Oh, yeah, I don't think Force Red should have been in this race. I don't think it should have been in a 1200. I think it should have been in a 1000, but maybe not in Melbourne. But anyway, I think it ran well. Yeah, so this race would be okay. I'd love to see Manos go up in distance. King of Rosso stay the same. Growing Eagle, Amazing Eagle probably stay the same. I'd like to see High Octane stretch to 1400, and I will give another chance to Smashing Time, because I think it will be a little bit forgotten off the back of this, and I thought its first up ever was really good, and it wasn't the same horse here. So maybe a bigger field ridden a bit colder. Could see that horse improve next time out. 3 weeks between runs. The stable is a bit dangerous that they're deadly at home, but I do think this horse has got a bit of quality, and we didn't get to see the best of it on Saturday. Agree. Ethan Brown locked in for Coleman. I heard that. Tried to get Josh on it, or tried to get Josh to kick up for it. But they already had Ethan Brown booked. Stan Fox. Another putrid race. 10.5 below to the 800 metre mark. 13.50 below. 13.5 below to the 600 metre mark. So they go really slow to the 8, slow it down even further to the 6, which is very unusual when there's a couple of Waterhouse horses in the race. And then they rip home 6 lengths above, which is okay, but the time overall is very slow. The leader, a Node, was very disappointing. I believe it pulled up with an issue. Only a slight issue, but an issue. So that explains why it couldn't get home. Couldn't get home despite having a really soft run in front. And, yeah, the race itself was pretty steady because of the just slow tempo. Again, just a bit of a barrier trial for most of these runners. Anything was, further back than fourth was in a lot of trouble. And again, this is Jay Ford. So what I'm saying here is, far out, I'm going to cough again, 1 sec. What I'm saying here is with a horse like this Just Party, and who's to know that it's going to draw gate 1, right? But last time he got stuck in an awkward spot, cost itself the race, whatever. To me, it's just a layup to be putting someone on this horse that you've got to get the horse out of the gates, right? That would have been the clear advice from me to the stable, is to put a jockey on that can get this horse out and travelling on speed, because it's not a horse that can really give away big starts, because it's sort of more of a building grinder than a sit sprinter, and a really slow tempo here. It's nearly overcome it, but it definitely would have if it held that spot. So if you had got a jockey on that could hold Prost, end up letting a Node cross it, third defence, I think it wins. So Prost gets across it. Prost was only fair last start, I thought, and sort of makes sense that the slow tempo allowed it to improve, because maybe stepping up to 1400 metres looked ideal for it, but not a mile. And it makes sense that it sort of ran it out strongly. You can see here they're dead set hacking. Jay has to go wide, and I think he made the right decision to try and go wide. I don't think he was ever going to get... He was going to have to ride for luck to sort of hope to get between Prost and a Node. So I think he did the right thing trying to get out at that point. Act to God that run opens up, and if he waits, he probably wins. I think he tried to do the right thing and was a bit unlucky. Sort of opens up the gap for Prost too.
Winding up on the outside, crystal clear. It's a node really being tested by deconstruction. Prost, Just Party the outside. It's Prost moving through. Prost and Just Party fighting it out now. Prost the inside at Just Party. Prost, Just Party lunges.
But the race is a bit of a joke. A node obviously not at 100%. And then you've got the winners run home the third fastest, last 200 of the day. Just Party the fastest. Crystal Clear the 8th fastest. Altoff the 4th fastest. Dane Commander the 5th fastest. And Depth of Character and Tatoka back last is run the 9th fastest, last 200, 11th fastest, last 400 of the day. So the race is just a complete joke. And again, I'd be treating it that way. It's just a literal barrier trial. The ones that you'd be worried about was anything that was soft up on speed and didn't finish the race off. You'd be concerned that their runs were a little bit poor. Seldom roam controlled the Turbo 2, didn't it? Just Party. Yeah, it should have won. It should have won for sure. And I'm not saying that it was Jay's fault in particular, but these are the sort of situations where you just want to cross your T's and dot your I's. And I feel like, you know, that if you're looking for that extra length out of a horse, he's just not going to give it to you a lot of the time. But he hasn't done a lot wrong. He just didn't get the horse out and in the right spot early in the race. Whereas, you know, that's what you see people like Shin and stuff do. And that's holding a, you know, to a pretty high regard. Like Shin's probably one of the best 5 jockeys in the world. So I'm not saying Jay Ford's a bad jockey by any stage. I just think, you know, once you get to the pointy end of a spring carnival, you're looking to put the best on as much as you possibly can. Just Party's deep into its prep. Prost, yeah, I'd be wary of this form anyway. I'd be treating it like a barrier trial. Look at their previous form and treating it like a barrier trial. Craven Plate, another jokish sort of run of a race. At least they did pick the tempo up from the 800 metre mark. They went very slow to the 8, picked it up between the 8 and the 6, and then picked it up again. So they came home. What did they come home? About 8 lengths above standard from the 800 metre mark, and the time overall was above standard. So this race looks okay. We had sort of a lot of horses maintaining good runs here. There was Rappo, looks like it's come back into form a bit. Faulkner Park was good. Naval College was okay. Even sort of Converge has run a couple of cheeky strong splits between the 8 and the 200 metre mark just from out of its ground. So again, horses out the back here were at a big disadvantage. Lindemann holding that spot behind the leaders certainly looks like what won at the race. Just a bit of a nothing race. But a good barrier trial sort of hit out that shouldn't hurt any of these runners going on to their next starts. I don't think Ryan, I don't think they struggle to get good jockeys. They don't. I think they're very loyal to you know, Jay and Sherry and a few other riders who do a lot of work for them. I think they're probably more loyal than more others. I think they like to use McEvoy too. You know, they're not particularly my set of jockeys, and that doesn't mean they're bad jockeys. It just means they're the ones that I don't prefer for whatever reason. And I usually give reasons why I would prefer other jockeys than those riders most of the time. You don't have to agree with me. No one does, and they don't either. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not right all the time. I'm not right a lot of the time, but just personal preference. But I think they do a lot of work with them and for them, so, you know, they're the ones they like to stick with. They're right. The horses are normally trained to sort of be up closer to the speed and quite fit. So, you know, and those guys are mainly sort of passive riders that like to look for cover, which, you know, I like to match the horses up with riders, to be honest. So I think Red Wave's the only horse cut wide. Rappo back on the inside, Converge. Faulkner Park, Democracy Manifest, all out the back off this slow tempo. Lindemann is a pretty free-running horse. It was only second up here, so that was probably the query, that if they ran along up front, a strong 1,800 metres second up off a pretty much barrier trial first up, I thought was going to be the biggest issue for this horse, and was able to overcome that. So this horse should have further prep forward momentum into its prep and should have more improvement to come. You know, she's proven that he can run out sort of 2,000 metres, and he's I don't know, he's a bit of a, you'd call him nearly a Waterhouse Waller runner. Is what I sort of, I love when Waller gets these sort of on-pace building sort of types, because they usually do improve into their preps and they're pretty predictable, whereas most of his runners aren't predictable for me. Back markers that need luck and bounce and form up and down. This guy's usually pretty predictable. Was in an unsuitable race first up, and then this time he was he found the right race, and I thought he did a good job to hold him off, because they're pretty sharp horses chasing. Arapaho's gone like a rocket, hasn't it, really? Like, that's Fork to Park and Numerian and Democracy Manifest, a horse with a big last 600 that it's chasing home there. So, yeah, very impressive from Arapaho. Definitely a good pass mark for Naval College first up. Yeah, I don't think Redina was that well placed here. Numerian, whatever. It's just a bit of a funky race, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a horse like Converge run well next time. I wouldn't be surprised to see Naval College run well second up. I wouldn't be surprised to see Lindemann win a nice race next time out. I would love to see Democracy Manifest go back to a mile in a big field around sort of Flemington or Randwick. And Arapaho's tricky, but that was a much better effort than what we saw last time. I don't know where Redina's going, but I don't think 1,800 metres is its go. I would have thought a mile at most is its go. So, yeah, I would think, and he'd be dangerous back to a mile off this. No clue where Arapaho goes. No clue. No clue. Redina's in the champion mile. Oh, well, that'd be a big ask. Probably a... Whoa, what's that? Is it still working? I think it is. I don't know what that was. Elgato something. Something had a heart attack.
Lindemann nosed out Spirit Ridge, and Democracy Manifest third, I think.
So that race will feed something in the next few weeks. Spring Champion, this is a weird one. Very slow tempo. They pick it up minorly from the 8 to the 6, and they basically come home in even time. On paper, it's a very poor race. A very poor race. So, time-wise, putting it down to just sort of one pace, sort of grindy types is the only thing I could do. There was nothing here that was sort of flashy with a big turn of foot, and or that ran the sort of trip out strongly. So I'm not sure if the race was as bad as what it seems on paper, or they were just horses in a slow run race that couldn't take advantage of the sprint home because they don't have that ability. You know, like what I'm trying to say is that nearly the whole field was pace affected, so you could bonus them in a bad race by saying the slow tempo stop their ability to run faster time, if you know what I mean. So if they all had rolled along, I'm saying even the leaders were at a disadvantage from going too slow, and it brought the race quality down potentially, because I don't think these horses are bad horses. I just don't think any of them are sit sprinters. So you've got to be a little bit wary of the race quality, but I think that it'll be overplayed how poor the race is because of the slow tempo and the nature of the horses in it that aren't able to take advantage of a slow speed, if that makes sense. All right, the mighty El Costello, he's been very good to us. He has had everything go his way his last 3 starts. But that is partly because of his racing pattern and his ability to sort of put himself into good positions, but also things have just been gone incredibly well for him. All right, number 1. So here we go again. We're going to pick on jockeys again. I'm going to cough first. I'm going to pick on poor old Sammy Clipperton. So he's been back at the provincials a bit lately and has been riding winners. Nathan Doyle bought him to ride Harlan Queen here and sits sort of, he jams her out the gates and has her up on speed. and ends up 3 wide, no cover, the absolute entire. Is that his fault in particular? No, absolutely not. Victim of circumstance to a certain degree, but again, I don't know. You find that, you know, better high quality riders don't have that bad luck as much as others. But you know, it's heading to the Oaks. I did hear a little whisper that it didn't pull up. It didn't pull up poorly or anything like that. I didn't know anything about that, but it definitely felt the run. It does sit wide the whole way, but I just want to highlight its run here because it's the only horse that sits wide the whole way here and continues to find the line, which in the Oaks is just the be-all and end-all for me. You need someone who's going to run the trip, someone that's tough, unless you get sort of a freaky sort of horse with a huge turn of foot, which don't come along that often. You want those set square types that are just tough, and she reminds me a bit of set square, this horse. El Costello ends up outside the leader in a really leisurely run race. We've talked about the 100 to 1 chance whips around at one point and puts some speed into the race, which is absolutely perfect. And the reason for that, one of the main reasons I hate slow tempos is because it allows the back markers in, or what I hate slow tempos when the leaders don't increase the speed from a certain way out, is because it allows the back markers to get into that race cheaply when they've spent nothing in the run. Sort of offsets the advantage the on-pace horses have. So as soon as you inject a bit of speed into that forces the back markers to maintain a sprint for a lot longer, rather than you make it a 600-metre race otherwise, right, where everyone's basically on an even playing field, but you've had to expend that little bit of energy to go forward early. So it is 3 wide the whole way, I believe, here. And then, so here we go. This horse takes off. Flying Argento, which is perfect. So nothing had come off the bit at this stage. So nothing had tried to work into the race during the cheap period of it. And now it's sort of game on from this point. And Josh just lands in that absolutely perfect spot where he's got, you know, Henline's got to make up 2 lengths. Pleasure Artist's got to make up 4. Harlan Queen's the first horse off the bit. Swift Falcon's got to make up 10. You know, like, it faced an impossible task. Again, I'm not blaming Jay for these instructions, but they were disgusting. Like, at the start, coming out this way in a race where there was no speed on paper, coming out like full restrain back to last, was just basically giving up. I don't know why it was even in the race. It should have been in a mile race somewhere or something. If they thought it was a query at the distance, it was just giving up. So, yeah, El Costello comes up 3 wide. Looks like Henline's a big chance of going past him at this point. Rag Queen's a little bit unlucky, sort of held up in behind there. Pleasure Artist had its chance for sure. Firm Agreement runs okay. Swift Falcon down the outside. Again, we've talked about this horse so many times. I just love that he's got gears. He's got good fight. Horses come to him, he fights them off. You know, if we saw him first up in a 1400-metre race or a 1500 at Warwick Farm, he sat 4 wide, no cover the whole way, and just kept fighting him off. And I was actually surprised they've left the blinkers on just to sort of let him have a look at them and relax. But they've left them on him, and every time a horse has come to him, he's responded. And he's a horse that I don't think is suited by a slower tempo. It was good that they sort of injected a bit of speed at the 1,000, which helped him a little bit. But I got no issue with him running out 2,500 metres. I do believe Henline's going to go there now. So these two will go to the Derby. I think they'll go to the Oaks. I'm assuming Rag Queen will go to the Oaks. I thought they were all pretty good, to be honest. Firm Agreement will go to the Derby as well, up the inside. He was okay. I still think he's clearly the horse to beat in the Derby from what I've seen, even though it looks a bit of a yuck race. And I do think this form will hold up for the Oak. So she was the first horse off the bit. Harlan Queen here, you can see she sort of gets half dropped by Pleasure Artist at one point. And she just doesn't give up. She doesn't shirk a task. This is just looking at Harlan Queen in isolation.
It's going to be a fight to the end. El Costello's lifting from Henline, and El Costello won the spring champion, fending off Henline.
She's definitely not weak on the line, and you know, sticks her head out. So if she's in one piece, I think she'll be hard to beat in the Oaks, but be very wary of. You'd love a rider change, and you just want to make sure that she runs. Here's Walt. Okay, I'm alive. Took the $10 in the Derby based on your advice. That's what currently $3.50. Good March here. We're all on together. Last I heard, Henline's going. Last I heard, it's going. Yeah, she did the same in the Oaks. Yeah, in the Flight Stakes. She sort of got chopped out there and picked herself up. I think she's a really good chance in the Oaks if she gets there. Like a really good chance. I was very happy with the ride because Moonee still had a win, but if I was on it, I would have been grumpy too. Well, wasn't he? Was just a victim of circumstance. At least he was trying to be positive, but certain jockeys are used to going forward and pinging their horses and getting them in spots, and it just, other riders just make it look hard. They pulled the pin today. Henline? I'll ask. I was only talking today. Anyway, I hope they do. What's the date today? Anyway, I'll ask. Stand by. Invitation. This race was really good ride on Belclair. She put her hand up with good runs first up. She's obviously torched first up, and then second up where they had a bit of a hangover and still a bit fierce. They took the blinkers off here. I didn't think she'd lead, but once she did, it was very smart. I thought they'd take a sit this time to make sure she ran out the strong 1400. But yeah, she was super impressive, this horse. The trials were excellent leading in. She looked like she's airborne all prep, and she was a silly price here. Completely fair, like 25 to 1 or whatever, which is silly. So no surprise. There's no fluke in this performance at all. And she'll run well again. Magic Time every chance, but I did think she was slightly vulnerable setup-wise, so I think she'll run well again. Macarena taking the sit, I don't think is ideal for it. Alentia was pretty good. Zoo Gotcha, not at its best, probably goes for a spell, I'd say, and the rest, sort of never got close. But strong tempo throughout, strong even tempo. So an even tempo, strong time, consistently solid sections throughout, basically the best way to put it.
1,500 metres, there's the light, and we're ready to go. Stand by for a break.
Maybe not. What just happened there? Hurrah.
Invitation over 1,400 metres, there's the light, and we're ready to go.
I'm not having much luck here. Doesn't like me blowing it up.
1,400 metres, there's the light, and we're ready
if
to
I
go.
Pull that there and that.
For a break.
Hurrah.
Racing now. Macarena left sharply off the inside. So did Terramata wide out.
So yeah, I thought they'd take a sit. I thought they'd let Macarena boot through here. Great ride from Nash. Thought a bit of early pressure on Magic Time, then reverse parked in the 1-1. Yeah, I was surprised they didn't try and hold the front with Macarena. I just don't think she's a third defence horse. But they do love to find cover, don't they, the old Team Hawks? And Gate 1 makes it hard. You're always getting dictated to. Arctic Glamour gets caught wide, no cover.
Gotcha back in the pack at this point. Then came Arctic Glamour on a wide path, Alentia.
They sort of left him alone in front from this spot. I think Terramata sitting outside the leader was a great result for the leader because it's not a horse that was ever going to attack. If Macarena was outside, I think Zach would have been putting the pressure on from this point. But I don't think that would have changed the result, to be honest.
And Belclair now to the fence, leads the way from Terramata. Now Magic Time running on. Back on the inside, Macarena. Alentia's next a little bit one pace. Gotcha's not going well. Belclair still the one to get. Now Magic Time.
And I think they kind of had their chance. I think she was good. I think the pattern sort of helped, but there's just no fluke in this. I think this is a pretty good horse. That's really in good form and flying. Second horse maybe gets a length closer to a next start. Macarena should have been close to full petrol there. Alentia was only second up and entitled to peak because it was a much harder run, brutally race over more distance. So I think she ran well. She'll peak next time out. I think all first four across the line were pretty good. Roll on high. Very strange race to tackle first up. It was a pass mark, I think, and so was Arctic Glamour, pretty fit. This horse was a weird run, sort of just got squirting through the line, sort of stood out to me through the line as a horse that just did enough to be keeping an eye on next time. It was called Q's Likely. Don't know why it was in that race either, but just weird through the line, just sort of weird starting to pick up here. You know, I know it's sort of picking up the pieces when everyone just always keep an eye on the run-throughs, and it was just strange that this horse sort of poked through under its own steam. A little bit like Sounds of Heaven has been, so maybe, you know, blinkers go on that horse. It might do something next time out as well. But the first four across the line, all pretty high-class mares that are going well enough to be dangerous in anything they go into. Zougotcha looks like it's cooked this prep. Yeah, it looks like it's cooked this prep. Firm Agreement didn't nominate. That's a good thing. Love Nash on Magic Time. Unfortunately, he won't be riding it in 2 weeks. He'll be in Melbourne. I don't know who they've taken, who they've chosen to ride it, but Nash won't be on it next start, which is a shame. I think there's $11 around the Oaks, Harlem Queen. Five Diamonds Prelude. So this was a huge performance. Very depressing. But was sort of the beneficiary of the late scratching of Majestic Felix Majestic. That it was more likely to lead, but it did miss the start and sort of then is used for the front, takes off early, just gets set a monster task, this leader. And second up off a run where it sort of expended a lot of energy first up too, pinched a break and was, you know, lucky to hold on. But was it lucky? Its performance was huge, really. They've gone out 4 lengths above to the 8, 8 lengths above to the 6. So she's taken off at the 800-meter mark after spending a lot of petrol in the first half of the race, and then maintained sort of an even closing section from in the last 600 meters. So the second horse's effort's really good to try and chase it down, Territory Express, because even though there is a fast tempo, you still had to close. And there's a good gap to sort of third, fourth, fifth. There's not too many excuses for the beaten brigade. So 1, 2 across the line, huge merit in their performances. You'd love to see a rider change on the leader. It's just airborne, but you won't get to see that ever again, probably. About ready now. Really talented horse that's flying. So this is it here, sort of half slow away. Territory Express always slow away. We're used to that. A more victorious up front. Punch Lane. So it's weird here. She looks like she's going to drop in for a trail on I Know a Star. And then she's like, it's really weird. Maybe starts to get keen or something. And she's like, no bugger that, here we go. So definitely using a lot of petrol here. Tyler at this point is probably going, hang on, we're stablemates, what are you doing? But Schumacher only knows one way. So she's dropped the hammer. And this is like, that's the 800 meters coming up. Well, that's the 800 meters is coming up soon. There, so about here, isn't it? Right there. So this is where she drops the hammer already. So this horse has basically worked the whole way, really. It never really got settled in front, and she's already taken off. So this is a huge performance. Territory Express fall back the inside. That's about as close as he ever settles in the run. Don't know why this horse's favourite, Yellow Brick. Doesn't do a lot wrong, Zach, trying to find the run, sort of gets held up a little bit, but has a clear enough air and has his chance, I believe. Especially when this horse has literally just burnt petrol the whole way and put a gap on him and holds the rest of them off. Straight Ace comes through like he's going to do something, peaks a bit late. Hollyman's up the fence. Punch Lane, who's this down the outside? Is that Freedom Rally? Very fit horse. Robusto down the outside. Osipenko's sad again.
Savaging the line now. He's knocking up I Know a Star. Territory Express is going to get close.
Apparently he thought he won, Zach. Asked to look at the footage when he came back in because he thought he got the job done. It was a little bit sick for Territory Express backers. But yeah, huge merit in 1-2, whether that's a prep killer. But yeah, I know a Star's, that's a serious race. I'm assuming they go to the 27 Diamonds or whatever it's called in a few weeks, and you won't get a rider change. But if it did on I Know a Star, it'd be very, very dangerous. And Territory Express is always dangerous, but always needs luck. What is the race meant to be? The Invitation? I don't know. Just another burning of money. How much was it? Like 2 mil or something, wasn't it? It's obviously detracting from a race in Melbourne that they're trying to pull horses from, I would assume. Whether it's today or next week, they'd be just trying to weaken a race in Melbourne by creating this race. So 2 million for no reason. Spring Champion 2 million, and they've gone 8 lengths below standard. Beautiful, high quality race. $1 million for the Stan Fox, which was an absolute camel race. Really, it was like horrific. Leftovers from all over the place that have had failed horses into the Golden Eagle and things like that. That was $1 million race. The 5 Diamonds Prelude. So you've got horses that are racing for ridiculous money in 2 weeks that they shouldn't be anyway. Getting a $1 million warm up race. Like, work that out. You'd get them for 200 grand for the same horses. Yeah, I don't really understand. Like, there's probably, say you call the Invitation a $500,000 race. Prelude of what's that? That's 1.5. Then you save $750,000 there. That's 2.25. The Spring Champion should be 800 grand or something like that. Call it $1 million if you want to call it a Group 1. There's another $1 million, and the Stan Fox should be 300 or 400 grand. You know, you save 3 or 4 million on this day, and you don't change the quality of it one bit. Yeah, Territory Express, the last time when he was 25-1, that was absolutely brutal. I think she's only in. I think she's only in the US for that one day, and the Breeders' Cup, isn't it? Has it already been on, or is it on this week or something? I'm not sure. It might be on this week. You could only pray that she's. When's the Breeders' Cup? Is it this week? The Empire Rose has actually come up a lot stronger than what I thought it would, which is depressing because I think Lekvart's got a very good chance. Yeah, I think she comes straight back. Anyway, very, 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 very good run, the winner, and the second horse is Airborne, Territory Express. The last was just an absolute camel race on paper. Actually, not too bad the way they've gone. Slowish tempo, controlled tempo. They slow it down. It's 2 lengths below to the 8, slow down 3.5 below to the 6, and then come home like 3 or 4 above. So they've actually gone okay. The winner pulls itself a bit into the ground, and it was a good performance. Cafe Millennium better. Kintyre looks like it spent this prep. Townsend was a good effort first up off a break and a long break, and the rest were pretty steady, I thought. This horse has got a bit of upside. I think all of its efforts have been pretty good. It was well backed. I think it was like $9 into $6. Blinkers on. Poor old Zoology out the back. Kintyre, another steady ride. I thought, I don't understand why he didn't give it one squeeze at the start, Kintyre, and go to the fence. Even if he let Townsend go, I thought he should have gone to the fence early. So they pull up here, you can see all the horses sort of pulling in behind. Definitely not running along. And gets to the right spot. Poor old big old Cafe Millennium gives the hip and shoulder. The Rezan.
Closing in with Kintyre, 2 lengths away to Cafe Millennium. It's Sounds of Heaven now. Sounds of Heaven moved up to Townsend. Sounds of Heaven takes the lead and kicks.
There's nothing really wrong with the runs of sort of Kintyre and Townsend and Cafe Millennium. The winner was pretty dominant, but had the right run, obviously. I think whoever got that right run probably goes pretty close, but this horse had been sneaky solid its last couple. And certainly no surprise to see it put the race away. Where does this form go? I've really got no idea. What was it? quality 1600 metre race. As I said, most of these horses hadn't won for a long time. I don't think anything had won for over 200 days or something like that.
Takes the lead and kicks away on the last. Sounds of Evan beat Townsend.
But yeah, the winner's this is a 5-year-old mare. There'll be a race for it somewhere. There's no doubt about that. Don't know whether Kintai's got a lot of upside this prep. Townsend was very well positioned in this race. But mile first up off 500 days or 415 days or something was still good. And I don't know what you do with this big fella. I don't know what he is. I'd rather nearly see him in a big field 1400 or something like that, like a huge field 1400 with heaps of pressure at Flemington or Randwick or something, but he's a punish. Is it still a Class 1, Paul? Cafe Millennium? Agree Kintai should have led. Sunday this week. All right, so Cox Plate. I'll have a look at. Why is that not coming up? Here we go. I thought the winner Barrakill was incredible. I love horses that are airborne. We'll have the Vase. I thought we'll have a good one look at this. So a little bit like the Sydney race, they walk here, even more walk, and they get home a little bit quicker. But the track was probably a little bit quicker than Sydney.
On the outside, pushing up to lead the race in the first 100 metres and is going to cross the face of the field. So the leader, Pearl of Patch from opening address.
So just looking at this for the sake of the Derby. King of Thunder's form's only been very fair. Did have a little freshen and then a bit of a barrier trial last time at Kembla after it was sort of sent forward and put a race away. Does over race and get back in the field here and does a lot wrong. And he's probably the run of the race. So I think you got two schools of thought on this race. The King of Thunder's the best horse to come out of it and the most dangerous in the Derby. Like, look at him dead set pulling his ring out the whole way. So he's either the only horse to follow out of this race or this race is putrid. I think they're the only two ways you can sort of put it for mine. Red Aces does win the race from the 1-1. But yeah, so this is, here comes King of Thunder, forced to make a long wide run. He's never been to Melbourne, he's never been on in this leg, he's never been around Moonee Valley before, and this is him out here. Sort of just kept coming and coming and coming. So yeah, I think he's the only horse I could take out of the race, but I'm very wary that that form's pretty steady. Yeah, J-Max stole. He wrote it there, didn't he? He wrote it there. So that's that race. This Barrakill, man, it's airborne. Worst weighted horse you've ever seen here. I actually kicking myself I didn't have a really good shot at it because it did. It mapped well. It found a race where Ironman Stop was 1,000 to 12. There were a couple of beaten up horses. It was at Mornington Pier and whatever in the race. There were a couple of first up horses. It did fall well for it, the race, apart from the weight scale when it was like 15 kilos under what it should be carrying or something like that. I'm sure they gave it, so that'd be interesting to see. They would have given it some astronomical penalty, I'm sure. So it went from an 86 to a 105. So they gave it the quick 20 points, 19 points. So there's your 8.5 kilos. Who's forcing up on the outside and Barrakill third. 9.5 kilos, sorry. 18 points, 9 kilos. What did it get? 19 points. 9.5. Yeah, I just love horses like this that are can find positions on speed, travel, and then quicken off it like this horse is. This is 2 times in a row this horse is. You know, they're not scared to it's traveling that well that they get it. They're happy to come into the race 2-3 wide and flow into the race. And look at him looking over his shoulders. The horse just must be feeling and traveling that well that the rider's able to look around and maybe Moonee Valley suits this horse but the changing of the leg quicken, put the race away. That's twice it's done that in a row with good horses around it, and really just smashed them at the critical part of the race where you want to see it. So travelled to the 400-metre mark and then smashed up the fields. And it's a horse that's going to be very dangerous going to whatever it wants to. Whether it's down the straight, that might be a little bit trickier because it does look a horse that kicks off a bend really well. But completely airborne Barrack Heel. Yeah, it's a very, very, very good horse, Barrack Heel. What are you saying? It's only had I only had a 56-day break. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so it only kicked off its whole career in May. Wow. And there, that's so it's been beaten twice, and they were both down the straight. So I honestly didn't know that. It just looks a horse that loves a bend, and the other thing is maybe you could be wrong that it's just heavy tracks that have hurt it as well. So good track down the straight might be more interesting, but it definitely looks a horse that's more potent off a bend from what I've seen. Yeah, so yeah, AI, that's a, do you think it's the fourth no cover? So first horse no cover off on speed is the horse I would call OSL always. Just the further they are back from the lead, the less, the easier it is usually, depending on the tempo and all that. But as a blanket rule, you would treat them with as having the most difficult position. No one, you're not allowed to call anything the Russell Balding, mate. Isn't it worth 2 or 3 million? Bitter Creek rate okay, race 2. I don't get the full times and everything for Melbourne, but the race was pretty steady from what I can see. It was a couple of lengths below. They went out slow and come home slow, but yeah, and the times were really fast. So I'd be very wary of the Bitter Creek race, to be honest. Of all the races on the card, it looks like the most dicey. And you did have a couple of direct comparisons with the McEwan and the William Crockett so yeah, it's looks like a dicey race. It looks like a dicey race. The red anchor potentially. Freaking Russell Balding. What, are they kidding? They should have called it the Russell Balding odds and evens. Then I would have appreciated the race. All right, let's look at this race. So this is my opinion on this race. Everyone will have a different opinion. My opinion is that Damian Lane absolutely butchered this horse. In the run, I was happy because I thought, how's this horse going to get beat? But then when you go back and see how fast they went, he was basically on a kamikaze mission, the way he rode it, and the horse has gone like an absolute rocket. I couldn't understand the huge chirp before that this horse was going to be slow out. Like, I honestly thought that was a positive, that it was going to be slow out and just go to the fence and poke around and find the back of Visestina and track it into the race. And I honestly thought it was that was the only way I saw the race running. I never thought this horse would try and go forward. You knew there was going to be strong tempo in the race no matter what, and this horse should be able to flow into it and then sort of work off the bends rather than being up there bullocking and chasing and doing what it did. And it obviously ran extremely well. I don't think it would have beat the winner. I'm not having a whinge that it would have beaten the winner. I don't think you would have beaten the winner with a bat, but it would have needed a bazooka. But yeah, I was just, I just couldn't understand why he rode it the way he did. It didn't make sense to me. But anyway, that's my opinion on that horse. A little bit, I was disappointed in myself the way I handled the race, that I got too tied up in worrying that these horses are doing superhuman things at the moment, the Marcamp and a few others, and that this horse would magically find its best. It didn't ping the gates last week against Major Beale, and it didn't do it again here. Like, it's not slow out, but it doesn't sort of show natural speed, and I hate when horses like Pride of Jenny aren't pinging the gates and then sort of having natural pace. It really worries me. So anyhow, they all just decided they were going to become on paces, which for me is super strange, but definitely when we're talking perfect storms for a horse, James McDonald must have just been absolutely laughing to himself to watch Damien Lane, when he would have thought that Damien Lane was a big chance of stalking him or being behind him and that he was going to have to hold him off. Now he's got all of his dangers in front of him on a likely rocket ship tempo, and especially when he's seeing a horse like Vaporate kick up and create more pressure. J-Mac would have just been absolutely laughing in the run.
The inside, 2.5 via Sistina, Kovalika, and broadsiding last. So Royal Patronage led.
They go like 25 lengths above standard to the 600 metre mark and come home 3 above. So they don't slow down. The time's obviously ridiculous. They did run fast times the last few races, so the track certainly did improve as the day went on and got faster. But yeah, like Prognosis is chasing this leader. It doesn't look like he's having a tough run, but they are going so fast. And that 6 lengths back where she's done no work at all at any stage is a big difference. Monster difference. She's also just in an ideal spot on the back of Mr. Brightside. She can choose when she wants to go. James must have just dead set had a full-blown Woody Woodpecker the whole way in the run. And I think even here, Damien Lane's like, well, I've got the leader whenever I want it, and it should be race over. But there's nothing he could do from this point. He's already spent so much petrol that once she comes to him, it's game over. It's not as if he should have gone earlier. I've got no issue with that. But he must have had a heart attack at this point when he would have thought, geez, we've gone so quick, no one's going to get to me here. And she chimes in that quick. So she hits the front nearly at the 500 metre mark. And what's happened to this point is explainable. What happens from this point is what I struggle to explain. And that's not a Debbie Downer thing. It's just somewhat like I've watched a bazillion races and you know what horses are capable of. You go back and watch what they do. You tend to get like you've got a decent handle on this horse. It's entitled to improve. It's very well set up. I think the gallop during the week, you know, horses on quick backups, they can do good things. So, and you treat it that way, that the 3 or 4 laps of whatever, this horse is basically on a quick backup. Fast run race, yada, 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 4th up. It's entitled to peak. The way the race is run, everything's gone well for it. But she's taken off like 700 from home, hit the front 500 from home, and then does this. Like, not only when horses are tired, as soon as a jockey stops applying direct pressure on the horse, they pull up naturally. She doesn't. She's holding or extending that margin while he's standing up posing for photos, and it's not as if the second horse is not holding the third horse. And look at her around the bend there. Like, we get half a look at her sort of ducking away. She's not stopping. That's the part that's just a little bit smelly for mine. But anyway, I won't go into it too much. But yeah, a little bit inexplicable the last 200 metres for mine, that she can just extend away with her ears pricked and not even have a jockey sitting on her back. But yeah, broadsiding was probably better than I thought it would be, but you've got to say that the 2 horses that were best suited by the tempo, apart from the winner, were broadsiding and Kovalika. This thing looks like it dead set was going to run second, and then something happens to it. Looks like it nearly breaks down Docklands. So its effort was good. I don't know what it was doing in that race, but it could be dangerous if it's staying around in a mile race next prep or something. Mr. Brightside does his normal, usual, honest thing. Just stretched at a fast run 2000. I think it was all pretty straightforward. Every horse here did what they should do. She was entitled to do what she did on the back up. She was just cast. She's a bit flat. Everything did what they should, really, except for this horse. And he rode to beat Jenny, which he did, yeah. And that kind of reminds you of the day that he rode Amelia's Jewel, right? So like he went out with that same plan, but it was a very different race. Hard to label a rider butcher when it rides in there. Well, not really. Why does it evens in the run mean that it was a good ride? It just means that it was an even money chance in the run. It was actually wrong. You should have just laid it, to be honest. And that's easy after the ball as well. I'm talking about hindsight. After you've got all the information, he did not give his horse the best chance to win the race that he should have given it. James McDonald gave his horse the best chance by 1,000,000 miles in comparison, direct comparison to Damien Lane and James McDonald on their rides in very similar profile horses that race in very similar fashion and race to their best in very similar fashion. He gave his a monumental task in comparison to what James McDonald did. That's what Jenny gets others to do to beat it. Sarah Wolf versus Jenny. Yeah, well, Sarah Wolf's another one that's a little bit weird for mine, but anyway. James comes we're keeping our plan secret. Go to the last. Yeah, exactly. Jenny, no quicker. It's a very elegant. Yeah, it's a straight up very elegant. I don't know. No, I don't think it's a one-off. You're getting to see a lot of these things. Why smelly? Because it just doesn't happen. I hope I explained it. The horse has improved 8 or 9 lengths or something on its previous best, and looks like it could have gone another lap. To me, that's smelly. It just doesn't sit well with me that it's a true performance. It's like Antino. I can't explain it, and I'm not saying someone's cheating. I'm just saying I can't explain it, and I've watched a lot of races in my life, and some things don't make sense to me, and I'm allowed to say they don't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the horse has just gone to some astronomical new level and it'll be the best horse that ever lived. But Very Elegant was exactly the same and then basically never repeated it or got near it again. So it's just, what will Antino do next time out? I don't know. What will Duke de Sessa do? To me, everyone's is not saying much about Duke de Sessa, but the difference with Duke de Sessa is that it improved off its career performances with the run that Prognosis had. So it sat up on a fast tempo, gapped them and ran away from them. And whereas Vase and Antino sat back in the field and took advantage of strong tempos that others set up. So, yeah, I think there's been a few performances in the last few weeks that are a bit superhuman efforts for me. I don't know. No, that's to me, Paul. And that's it. So, I grew up very blind to Lance Armstrong, for argument's sake, right? And it was it's not that the evidence is, and I know racing a lot better than I knew cycling. But when you're seeing something and you've watched it, so I spent years watching Lance Armstrong and bloody George Henkepi up the front, pumping his legs and pushing him up mountains, and all of a sudden, then there goes Lance, and you just thought it was normal, right? But the more you watched other series of races and riders in different conditions and whatever, and then all of a sudden Floyd Landis did what he did, where he bonked going up a mountain, and the next day he comes out and wins by 15 minutes or whatever it was. You just start to see outliers, right? And to me, this is the same sort of thing in racing. There's situations where horses well enough to what they're capable of, and then they do something, they sustain a run for longer than they should, they overcome adversity and prick ears and do things that horses don't do. Alberto Contador dancing up the mountain a few times. It just doesn't make sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Anyway, do horses get tested? They do. They do. They do. It's not worth talking about that side of things. It's just, to me, it's a bit of a weird one. And from a punter's perspective, all I can do is go, I'm going to be hyper aggressively against this horse next time it steps out, because even though everyone will have question marks over it, some people will regress the peak rating back and try and be conservative. I think the market will overplay it. I would love this horse to line up in the Melbourne Cup, because if it lined up in the Melbourne Cup at $3.01, I'd be having to leave the country, because I couldn't see it possibly repeating this. And it might be a weak Melbourne Cup, so don't quote me until it comes closer to race time. But if the race if it showed up to the Melbourne Cup in a race where it looked like there were serious dangers to this horse off its previous form, not taking this run into account at all, I would be heavily against it. Heavily against it. And that's it. Like, from a punter's perspective, who cares? Like, I don't care if people are cheating, to be honest. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't think it's good. But all you can do is observe patterns in the way trainers peak their horses. And, you know, if they do things that seem a little bit superhuman, you've got to come to expect it. You don't, you just got to not close your eyes to it and try and work it out when they're going to do these sorts of things. Betting patterns, lead-up runs, jockey changes, staging preparation for different distances, things like that. You just got to try and predict them. You know, who cares if they are cheating? That's not our job to work it out or to be the stewards. That's their job. So, you know, if they get pinged or not, who cares? It's none of our business, to be honest. It's just about trying to work it out and then work it out for next start what we do with these horses. And I do think that there's more upside in being very wary of them and trying to get them beat, for argument's sake, than it is to be cheering for them. Yeah, he's got to tick that box too, right? Got to tick that box. Nate, it doesn't really work like that. I don't think horses are. I don't know much about it, but I think it's very hard to sort of just get them to continually run through the brick wall. Is probably the way I'd say. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Yeah, so I'm not. You can take it however you want, to be honest. It's just my opinion that it'd be very hard for that horse to repeat that performance. Is basically what I'm saying, and I think Antino's a little bit the same. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what they both do. Well, Very Elegant's run in the Melbourne Cup is the most inexplicable thing I've ever seen in my life. All right, let's look at these lead-up races. Not lead-up, what do you call them? Races for next week. I've tried to have a look at a few of these. You. Don't do that. Don't do that. If I do that, is he going to... Don't do that. Oh, don't do that. I need that not to die. Is this going to work? All right, so Golden Eagle. So what do you think of Spanish Fox's horse? Oh, no, it's just been very, very well placed, gutsy, flying. Great racing style. I've got no early tip for the Melbourne Cup. I couldn't tell you about any of the horses in the Melbourne Cup. It's just too busy these days to get too far ahead for me. Yeah, but it had 40 starts or 30 starts or something before that as well, Jack. So pedigree's not, and it already had a start in the Melbourne Cup where it got beat 5 or 6 lengths the year before off favourable conditions. When it was going better, it started half its price that year. There was a lot of, I don't disagree that its pedigree wasn't interesting, but anyway. All right, so first, I actually thought Lazat or something. We'll look at this horse first, this Lazat. I actually haven't looked at this. So its form is 6 starts, 6 wins, right? 100% winning record. 5 territories. 6 starts winning, 15, 15, 15, 14, 14, 13. So it's 1 over 1,500 metres a few times, restricted grade, listed, Group 3, Group 3, Group 1. So this is 2 starts back. And
racing,
oh, blow your heads off. I honestly haven't seen this, so is that big enough? Can't really make it much bigger, I don't think. Huh? I think that makes it bigger. If I make it full screen, I think it actually Yeah, that's no good. These giant monitors. So hang on, I'm going to go to the back to see which horse it is because I don't know what horse it is. Holy shit, what happened there?
I think Lazada's just held off Havana. I think Lazada's near side. They go to the line together.
Okay, so it's a thing in light blue.
Yellow cap, Havana Cigar, followed then by Push Keen. With the horns going in.
So this is 2 starts ago.
Further back is Opera Mundi, and last of all is
So it's got some speed.
So they come down the side and going quickly up front. Lazim lead stablemate by a length and a half. The favourite Lazat. Third is Rochefar on 10. Straight. They're using the second winning post.
Looks pretty tractable, which is important. It's won the Sydney Way, which is important. Trying to send a horse to Rose Hill for the first time is always interesting.
Down on the inside. Further back in the field is Havana Cigar, followed by grandson of Calix and Opera Mundi. Taking the lead here is Lazat, but he is under pressure. Coming through his
got some acceleration.
Havana Cigar and Rochefar are working home down on the near side. And coming home quickly is Sagier. Just in front is Lazat. Coming through is Havana Cigar on the inside. Havana Cigar, Lazat, they go to the line together. Near side. I think Lazat is just...
That was a good win. And this is, I don't know how I'm going to make this big. What if I make this big? Let's see what it does.
Il s'élance pour la cinquième.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. So this is the last start. I'm going to make it full screen just because it's going to look like that, but anyway. Is this the same race?
Nous avançons plus loin. Havana qui ferme la marque.
Deuxième, Lazateur, troisième position. Alors qu'elle est numéro 2.
Is it not the same race? It's the same race. Unless it's beating the same bloody horse exactly the same way. What was the Group 1 called? Arc Prix Maurice de Guest. Let's have a look at that. Arc Prix Maurice de Guest. 20. Here we go.
All 15 are set and they're racing for the Prix Maurice de Guest, and what a joy to see 15 runners for this Group 1. And it's the yellow cap of Matilda Picot who's picked up...
I got no idea. I haven't looked at tempo or anything.
Towards the centre of the track. Millstream is prominent, as is Lazat.
That's the funny part, like what you're saying there, Paul, that the Golden Eagle will become the most difficult with all these overseas horses. It's unbelievable that they don't have a run out here. The money that they're coming to run for, you think they'd come out, you know, a fortnight, a month earlier and try and get a race under their belt. So this is a mile straight race, is it? 6.5 furlongs, 1,300 metres down the straight. So it's definitely an on-pace sort of buildy horse. It's got a little bit of a turn of foot and then can maintain that. I like that around Rose Hill. I think he profiles well for Rose Hill.
But it's still Lazat out in front from Beauvatier, Millstream, and on the near side Extra, and Lazat has routed them. Lazat wins the Prix Maurice.
It would be interesting to see what those tempos are like. It's certainly important. But I think he's the sort of right. Who's going to ride Lazat? Who's going to ride it? Yeah, I can get them the sectionals and whatever, but I just haven't. This is the Japanese horse. So he's had 6 starts, 4 wins, 2 placings. And he's won 4 of his races over a mile, I believe. So he's a little bit, 3 of his races, 1 over 1,400. So maybe that other horse is a little bit sharper than this guy. I did have a quick look at his replay. So this is 3 starts back. So this is the Oka Show. So he runs second here. He runs second, then he wins. Yeah, so that's right. So he runs second, then he wins that. This the Casey and the Sunshine Band race, which is the only place I could find it was on goddamn Instagram.
Right back in for third and Manuela. Kicking up in the middle, moving forward there is
so he's in the Shadow Eye Farm colours. He's back out here, I think. I think this is him here, and I think he's number 9. And if he's not number 9, he's the one outside it.
Going on is Chicago. He applies the fence wide. of it right now, travelling okay. The inside, running third is Sekitoba East.
I think he's the one with the...
moment is Catfight. In behind them is Corazon Beat. Chicago Sting.
I think he's the 9. Or he might even be the one behind it.
And running on well is Stellenbosch with it. And kicking up along the inside is Et Fou Prey. A wall of them across the track here, and Stellenbosch finds the lead. Ascoli Pacino's the chaser.
Sorry, he's the 12.
The inside, Et Fou Prey. Stellenbosch, Et Fou Prey's got a kick. It's going to be Stellenbosch in front. Got a bit of a kick with Joe Moreira. Ascoli Pacino's going to have one last crack.
He's not. He has a bad call, wasn't he? He's number 9. I thought he was.
Stellenbosch wins out from all of them across the side of the field. Leads them up. Et Fou Prey runs second along the inside.
So he's had the back of this winner. But he sort of gets shunted on the bend there, doesn't he, and loses his way a bit. Continues to find the line.
It's Stellenbosch, the inside, Et Fou Prey. Stellenbosch, Et Fou Prey's got a kick. It's going to be Stellenbosch.
How bad are the camera angles? Feels like Hawkesbury.
Ascoli Pacino's going to have one last crack, and later on is like back. It's going to be Stellenbosch.
Too good, Joe Moreira. So that's first run back this time in, I think. So that was April. That was a mile. It's had 2 more mile runs since then.
It's well with Mask All Win. Bond Girl up the inside with.
So this is a Group 1 mile.
Forward quickly as captaincy, and up there is his mid inside. Then and outsider Enya Love Faith. Back to the two at the tail of the field is Strauss. 400 metres to run. Mask All wins in front. Here's Jantamanta looming and even wider.
Jeez, look at all the carnage back inside.
Caboose. Gambare Caboose. Waterlick runs on as well, finding a Jantamanta. No filly. Ascoli Pacino. Jantamanta will go on and win well. Jantamanta goes on. The filly gets home.
Holy shit.
Jantamanta wins out.
Wasn't it a run? So it's one of those horses back in the...
Gets up the inside to run second, Ascoli Pacino. Nutting out Logi Leon. Go on and win, and filly
it's one of the horses that gets squashed in this ruckus back here.
Wins in front.
So that's him back in there. He should have absolutely dusted these horses in that Group 1.
Gambare Caboose. Waterlick runs on as well, finding a Jantamanta.
Talk about certainty beat.
Jantamanta will go on and win well. Jantamanta goes on. The filly gets home late. Jantamanta.
Christ, it should have pissed him.
The filly gets up the inside.
And then this is going to be fun to try and watch. So I've just enlarged it and made the last part of the race. And I'm not going to turn this music on because it's a dead set Japanese guy squawking it and you can't control the speed. But he's out wide here, sneaking into it. So I think this is him here, number 10. Number 10 coming around him. So that was last start. The one we watched where he got squashed was 2 starts back at Group 1 level over a mile. And then this is last start back into a Group 3. If it was Randwick, you could shove Lazat right up your backside because this horse would be just... I love Japanese horses, but another terrible camera angle, but I'd rather have this horse than the other one for mine. Some Italian guy. So that's even worse. French jockey's coming out to ride the Zat. That's not good for it. If it draws terrible, holy cow, good luck. Yeah, so that's the other good thing about Japanese horses. They're used to firm tracks as a rule compared to the Europeans. Who's riding Ascoli Pacino? I should know that. I think I do know that, but yeah, it's the one for me there. Unfortunately, the betting agrees. Jolie Star, we well set up. Southport Tycoon, I don't think can beat him. Steffi, not sure. Tom Kitten for me is looking for further. I don't know Lake Forest. I don't know Corazon Beat. A striker, Chad Schofield. It's interesting, isn't it? Like all that lead-up form is 25 to 1 or more. Moreira's riding it? Yeah, well. Yeah, I agree with that, Galileo. Prepared to take a run. Like that was... I think it'll win. But it's just Rose Hill. You're putting a $10 million race around Rose Hill. Just stupid. Bad enough they put the Golden Slipper around there. That'll be interesting anyway. Vic Derby, talk about quickly. El Costello, I think that's rock bottom. 350. I do think he's the one to beat. I'm on him at 50s. I pray that he wins, but I do think he's short enough. But then who beats him? I think St. Emilion is the clear danger for mine, just because it's got that untapped upside. And anyone who sort of listens to me whinge a lot. This Gold Rush Guru, I've been trying to buy it since first up this prep. So it'll be very, very funny if Gold Rush Guru comes out and shafts me in the Derby. That would be very, very funny, because they wouldn't sell it because it's a family pet, and now all of a sudden it's in the Derby, and it's actually going quite well. But yeah, it'll be funny if it reams me. You'll watch me have a meltdown on stream, no doubt. And I think St. Emilion's just got that bit of potential upside. I don't think it's coming out of a strong race in that Geelong race, but it just, the way it's progressing and put those horses away and sort of quickens when it's asked to and flattens out and runs through the line his last couple of starts. He just looks like a horse that has got a bit of untapped potential. Yeah, 20 horse field at Rosehill's just crazy. It's just crazy. Like, it should be run at Randwick. There is no reason for it to be run anywhere but Randwick. Yeah, I think he is a Castelvecchio. Yeah, I think they're both Castelvecchios. No surprise to see him throwing Derby types. Coolmore Stud Stakes is a lot stronger race than what I thought it would be. I didn't think Growing Empire would be there. Traffic Warden I didn't think would be there, but obviously thought it would jump out of the gates. Lady of Camelot underrated again. Bellatrix Star absolutely flying. I can't see any holes in the market there. I can't see any holes in the market there at all. You've got to have those two on top. You've got to have Switzerland third pick. You've got to have Bellatrix Star not too far away with Lady of Camelot and First Settler and Coleman are the two probably with a little bit of upside. Can Switzerland win, Brooksy? Ask yourself the question, could Via Sistina win this race? And I mean that with a complete tongue-in-cheek. Could it win? Yes, but it needs to hit a peak, which we've seen is possible. I agree with Gold Rush Guru. Yeah, it's been, yeah, they got a senior jockey for the first time ever. That's what I was saying. If you've been hanging around me for a while, you'd be knowing that I've been going absolutely insane. So no, I don't think. I'd be happy to wait and see with Switzerland. The betting will tell the story. The betting will tell the story. Betting will tell the story. Empire Rose. I was praying this race had come up a lot weaker. I backed Lechbart when it was at 25-1 after it won last start. I still think she's got a very good chance, but yeah, it's super strong. The tissue's very well set up. Orchestral's a very, very good horse. Amelia's Jewel was fine the other day. Plenty of Ammo went great on the weekend. Didn't have everything go its way, and I thought it was really strong to the line, and it's just a horse that's going to be up on speed and hard to run down. I think they're going to fly here, which is a reason why I think Lechbart's still a big price, because she's going to sit back. She's going to get a tempo that she enjoys. She should absolutely peak. I think she's a horse that's going to love Flemington. So I do think she's clearly the value, and I think she'll run well, but she's obviously, this is another level, and Orchestral is the horse to beat. And I think it's clearly the horse to beat Orchestral from Lechbart, and, Tissue's well set up, yada, yada. But I think Orchestral will go pretty close in this race, to be honest. Victor, we've talked about 4 Pillars Midway. Is this a joke? Apollo Mission. Geez, Alabama State will be hard to beat. Reyes. Yeah, we'll just wait for barrier draws now. Titanium Miss wins. You'll hear me throw up from wherever I am. Yeah, I don't know why there's no 3-year-olds. I guess there's just so many options for them now that they're just cast by the time they get here, Andre. I think they're cooked. Is this a joke? The Russell Balding Stakes? Yeah, okay. Well, can she keep going to the well? I don't know. Had such a long prep last time, but she just keeps showing up, doesn't she? Like, she was arguably the best run in the race in an ugly Everest. She obviously won the Everest. There's nothing there that looks like it's got significant upside to turn the tables on her. I'm a huge Sunshine in Paris fan. I don't think there should be much between them. Barrier draws will be interesting, but by the same token, Bella Nipotina is entitled to start favourite over Sunshine in Paris, but not significantly. I think there's too big a gap there. I think it should be sort of 5-2, 3-1, something like that, rather than the other way around. They both look very well placed around Rose Hill. Bella Nipotina's definitely got more adaptability. Sunshine in Paris needs a jockey change to sort of be able to settle that little bit closer, which it's unlikely to get. So, yeah, there'd be a few reasons for sure. This would be crap, won't it? Relentless Voyager. Who is that? These horses aren't going to be there, are they? Duke de Sessa? It went terrible the other day. Sagante, non-conformist. Who you mouth? It's interesting. I don't know if it's alive or not, though. Yeah, Rosehill Gold Cup we'll worry about later. This should be interesting. Ferrochi. Which horse is Ferrochi? Oh, it's the horse that was narrowly beaten in the Caulfield Guineas up the inside. Man, far out. Normally, gee, that was such a weird race. Like, you'd be keen to take it on, wouldn't you? Potentially. Good Sort was in the worst race in the history of the world the other day, but it was a good thing beat, and it's a race that Waller loves to try and win this race. It's an interesting runner, Good Sort. UK horse, the Relentless Voyager. Yeah, Ferrochi in the quaddie. Haven't they what? But usually you get a few Sydney horses show up in this carbine race, but obviously they have, but they're not. There's no superstars there. It's probably the one of them that's most interesting, Good Sort. I'd say $11 is not a bad price for it. Because that was a fast run Caulfield Guineas too. Like, they could easily be under the pump there. Yeah, these races scare me for 50 sprint when I just don't know who's going to show up in that race or not. So I'll stay out of that. Rising Fast, just looking for horses that I've half been waiting for. Nothing there. Felici Boulevard. Gee, there's an interesting race. Jimmy Star versus Another Will, if that comes about. That's an interesting one. Is the Wakeful Saturday? Oof. So this would be the Oaks, obviously, lead up. I don't know these horses too well. Some of these horses. But I'm not convinced at any stage by Powers of Oval. I not gapped them at Hawkesbury the other day, but it was one of the worst races you've ever seen in your life. It was entitled to gap them. This horse went good the other day. I don't know. I doubt it would back up Dame Commander, but it went pretty well in Sydney. That's it. I'm Unstoppable. If that's true, that's that's an interesting runner. Not in it, is it? Not in the betting. I would agree that Unstoppable is like a perfect candidate to back up in it'll be ready to go next start. All right, guys, thanks. That was good. Good fun. Said I make a lot of statements, but none of them are out of malice. It's just my opinion. Can we forgive Another Will? I'm all over Jimmy Star. Well, I think you've got to forgive Another Will. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later in the week. Another great week's racing, and see what we think. I've got to go to Sydney for another funeral on Friday, but I should definitely be back for Saturday. And hope to see you all there. Thanks for lobbing. Thanks for all the questions. Good, healthy arguments. What racing should be about. Differences of opinion. Cheers, guys. Have a good night. What are you prepared to lose today? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.